Hi everybody, I'm Corina. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My Facebook page is Corina Stefan Astrology and my website where you can book a session with me is www.corinastefanastrology.com. On April 10th at 11 p.m. Pacific time, the Libra full moon brings a very important message regarding the sacrifice of personal authenticity for the sake of harmony in relationships, and the positive or negative long-term consequences of such a choice. It is a message about the need of balance, adaptability, love and fair negotiation with others. We can now study in full spotlight who we are, who we dream to be and who we accept to be when interacting with others. Unfortunately, quite often the last piece in this holy trinity of relationships is essential and defines our identity in the eyes of other people. Who we accept to be in our partnerships is often a shrunken version of ourselves, one that was forced into a narrow corner. But the other party involved is rarely aware of that or asks themselves questions about our motivation in accepting to swallow one drop from this sort of drink me magical potion like in Alice in Wonderland. This potion makes us smaller and smaller so that we can finally fit through the door of the needs or desires of those we care about or want to see satisfied. So pay attention how low you set this level of personal compromise, because those with whom you interact couldn't possibly know that this really is your lowest threshold of tolerance. They will be tempted to believe that this shrunken version of yours is what truly defines your identity and what makes you happy. Don't be naive to encourage such a belief, because in doing so you might open a Pandora box that cannot be closed anymore. You might start walking on a path from which there is no coming back. When we want to go back to the true dimension of our souls after a series of compromises and adjustments, we can realize in horror that the process is irreversible. Like a king that gives up his throne for an afternoon and wants to have fun by playing the servant in a play, but at the end of the day he realizes his throne was taken over by someone else and he is exiled. When our noble gestures, through which we show that we are available and care for others, lead to an exile from our own life and we miss out on our authenticity, then we sure did something wrong. And the crucial question to be asked is the following: where do your choices stem from? Love or fear? This is the fundamental question that is asked and rephrased by the entire universe on this Libra full moon moment. God invites us all to admit painful truth that we do not dare admit, not even when we are alone. The astral context is one of tension and maximum contrast along the Aries-Libra axis of relationships. We are being forced and we don't really have a choice. We must be honest even if we try to wrap the blade of truth in velvet. I versus you or I versus others becomes clearer than ever before, and we start practicing how to say no and how to say yes so that we can be 100% authentic and sincere. It's a process that takes time and patience and involves a lot of sweating. It's no accident that Saturn has an extremely friendly relationship with the sign of Libra, where it is exalted. Saturn is a planet that loves hard, abrupt climbing, sustained efforts, raw ambition to surpass difficult obstacles and limitations, and a realistic long-term vision, even an eternal one if it were possible. The message of this Libra full moon is exactly this. In order to achieve the graceful movements of a ballerina, one needs thousands of hours, minutes and seconds of effort, repetition and concentration. The diaphanous perfection of a ballerina is built on a lot of pain and perseverance. And the main theme of this full moon, relationships, is perfectly represented by the symbol of a ballerina or the artist in general. Harmony and flawless beauty often hides unimaginable torment, So don't be naive when it comes to romantic partnerships or business partnerships, because an end like "and they happily live together ever after" is a sweet but dangerous fantasy. It's even lethal. And why? Because it programs our mind for the expectation of an easy, magical, miraculous achievement. And this simply doesn't exist. Art is so intimately connected to the sign of Libra, and its appearance of ease is so misleading. Behind art's perfection there is a strong will and a lot of sweating. And this is the only path to success. There are no shortcuts towards a happy relationship, so stop looking for them. And because the path is bumpy and is complicated, this Libra full moon tells us to negotiate and find balance in relationships by focusing on self-love, not fear. By following this simple rule, you will spare yourselves the heavy long-term consequences of cowardice or hypocrisy. This Libra full moon is conjunct to retrograde Jupiter in Libra, inviting us to meditate upon issues or situations in our lives where the lack of balance is caused by the fact that we do not honor our inner truth and we lie to ourselves. These are relationships or life contexts where we give too much and receive too little in return, where the divine principle of equity and reciprocity is crushed under heavy feet. The opposition, that aspect of 180 degrees between this conjunction in Libra and the Sun in Aries, united with Uranus, gives a dramatic and violent edge to this strong imbalance between me and the rest of the world, because the Sun intensifies and fully illuminates our need of freedom, of novelty and rebellion, which is symbolized by Uranus. We are in a situation where our need to impulsively and firmly break free from all that oppresses us or keeps us stuck leads to a massive explosion that shatters our world into pieces so that we can rebuild our world on a new foundation. This opposition is part of the cardinal T-square that has Pluto in Capricorn as the focal point. Pluto has slowed down these days, preparing to enter its 5 months retrograde phase beginning on April 20th. So this full moon will intensify beyond all expectations our fears, our phobias, our obsessions and compulsive impulses. Since Pluto is the planet responsible for our soul's evolution through a process of eliminating whatever is toxic or excessive, it would be helpful to ask yourselves, what exactly in your lives, habits, people or desires need to be released now because they no longer serve you? Pluto's slower movement these days will allow you to see those hotbeds of toxicity amplified by thousands of times, like in a zoom mode. Please observe your attachments to the familiar and to the past, and that are rooted in fear. It is time to regenerate and to let them go, just like the snake sheds its skin. The caterpillar has finally reached that threshold of its transformation into a butterfly, and this process cannot be stopped. It is better not to resist the extreme transformations that are going to show up in your life starting with the next 2 weeks and then in the next 5 months, as long as Pluto is in retrograde phase. Because this is the path for spiritual progress and there is no alternative to it. Any loss, any interruption, any painful separation or situation of symbolic death you might be faced with is meant to clear you of any excesses and raise your wings higher and higher. And yes, it is natural for a caterpillar to be afraid of flying. So be gentle and protective with yourselves, play a feminine and maternal role, as the solution of this whole cardinal T-square involves the sensitive and delicate sign of Cancer. If fear or panic surround you, just give yourselves a hug and rock your soul, just as a mother rocks her nursing baby. This full moon in Libra is loaded with heavy energies that are difficult to deal with. Many planets are in retrograde phase, so many issues that we've been postponing for some time need now our full attention. Venus, the planet that rules this lunation, will end its retrograde movement on April 15th. But until we hit that oxygen bubble, we still need to deal with the square, that angle of 90 degrees between Venus and retrograde Saturn in Sagittarius. Venus is currently in Pisces, conjuncting Chiron, which indicates an opportunity to heal a very deep wound regarding relationships, self-worth, money, or something that is essential to us. The 90-degree angle between Venus and Saturn shows that we need to bring balance and healing to our lives by taking into account the immediate, the pragmatic and harsh reality, and not by trying to escape into fantasy and imagination when we feel annihilated in our sensitivity. This aspect indicates that the solution of the problem, no matter what the problem might be, lies with a mature and realistic attitude. If we want balance and harmony, we need to open our eyes wide and roll up our sleeves, because there is a lot of work to do, a lot of sweating and discipline is required. The wall that we hit with this tensed square between Venus and Saturn will not disappear unless we move it with our bare hands, brick by brick. Through determination and a Hercules kind of inner strength, we can achieve that fabulous, diaphanous ballerina balance where we gracefully dance on the wire of relationships, but we can't fall anymore. Thank you, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe.